went in quite negative against Chelsea, I think it's fair to say. I don't think too many people would disagree if I said we sort of played for a draw in that one. Certainly in the first half, at least. And I want to basically argue, or not argue, I want to discuss whether or not David Moyes should be doing the same thing and treating the top 4, 6 in the same way as he did do before he'd spent £180 million. Basically, does £180 million entitle us to expect David Moyes to change his tactics? More importantly, forget our expectation or our entitlement. Should David Moyes, with better players at his disposal, be having more ambition against what he perceives to be the bigger clubs? And when I say better players at his disposal, I think we all have to agree that we have better players. Well, first of all, David Moyes has to agree that we have better players. If we don't even agree on that, then you have to ask the question, what have you just spent £180 million on? Now, I do think he's bought better players. He's definitely got a better squad than he had last season. More attackers, that's for sure. And certainly even midfielders with attacking qualities about them. Before we get into that, though, and because I'll tell you now, if you want to fast forward to the end of it, that my summary is that David Moyes is quite happy being the underdog. And I just wonder how comfortable he is in these new ambitious pair of shoes. Shall we put it that way? Let me tell you a couple of things he said. The first one was, you'll be hopefully aware of these comments. The other day he was asked by the press about our record signing. Lucas Paqueta was called our record signing. He took offence to that. He got a bit spiky. He's a bit grumpy with journalists at the moment. Got a bit spiky with them. And by the way, I think the reason he's grumpy with journalists is because he's almost feeling the pressure and the weight of expectation on him. So he said, you shouldn't be calling him. It's only you lot that refer to him as our record signing. But it hadn't been the case. Because when the club, West Ham's media department, were doing their own promotion of him, they were very much promoting him across all their social media platforms, Lucas Paqueta, as West Ham break, as our record signing. Record Brazilian playmaker. That was the narrative that was being spun by West Ham. And there's a reason they were doing that. It's because the club were proud. It was a boast, wasn't it? Little old West Ham spent £50 million. And that was it. But anyway, so when the when the press turned around and said, so, you're going to give your new record signing his debut. He's, hold on a second. Not a record signing. But he took offence to that. Now, I'm going to give you another quote from him. And I've got to be honest, the quote's weird, all right? I'll just pre-warn you now. This is press conference, pre-Chelsea press conference. He basically said, this is him talking to the press, he said, let's be fair, you boys are the ones that wanted us to sign players for you to write and talk about. That's weird. You were the ones, he said to the media, you were the ones that wanted us to sign players. Not we wanted to sign players, we needed to sign players, you were the one. And then he said, so as you can come back and say to us, it's us that are causing problems in society, yet you're encouraging our signings. I don't know where he's going. It's really conspiratorial. I don't know what his suggestion is. Maybe he's suggesting that the press are saying there's too much money in football and that's causing problems in society. And what David Moyes is saying, well, hold on, it's you that want us to sign a players. I think he's invented an argument. I don't know where it's come from, but I don't know why he's speaking about this stuff in the press conferences. Anyway, he said it's very difficult. I hope money wouldn't be the reason you get success in football, but it's driven by the media and the money. That's the way forward, that it makes you successful. I really wish it wasn't the case, but that's the direction. Basically, he's saying the way things are in football is basically money driven and media driven. I wish it wasn't. So I think he's very much saying, I don't want to be here doing this press conference. He doesn't want it to be about money. And as I argued in our Patreon, if it was just purely about football and it wasn't about money, he wouldn't be doing the job. You could go and the guy who runs my son's football team, Paul, brilliant guy, clearly loves football, gives all his private time away and coaches a football team, don't get a penny. In fact, it costs him money to be the football team, to be the coach of, an under-14s football team. But he's not saying that. So I find that whole thing a little bit weird. Anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. But I think what it adds up to is he's feeling the pressure here. And I do believe that when you spend £180 million, you're sort of duty bound to try and I'm mildly insulting him by saying try and win games. I think David Moyes probably felt that he could win that Chelsea game, okay? But I'm just suggesting, bearing in mind the way Leeds went about it, bearing in mind the way Southampton went about it, that wasn't probably the best way of winning that game. I suspect that with Cornet starting, with I know Skamaka was injured, but with Benrahma starting and with Paqueta on there as well, those teams to supplement Antonio would have had a right go at Chelsea and would have caused them problems. And because his idea of as I argued a couple of times yesterday, his idea of the top 4, the top 6 is, he almost feels Chelsea has still got Drogba up front. You know what I mean? They've still got Robben on the wing. He still thinks it's Jose Mourinho in charge. He still thinks Man United, when he plays them, it's Alec Ferguson with David Beckham there and Ruud van Nistelrooy and so on and so forth. And I think he likes being the underdog, and it's far easier when you're the underdog and you can then claim, I haven't got much money to spend. You're basically playing a pauper. You're pretending to be the Orphan Oliver. And it's all a case of, please, sir, can I have some more? Well, at some point when you get some more, you're going to have to look at things slightly differently. And I think when you set up defensively, it's a lot easier when you can claim, I don't have the players to do it. That's the only way we're going to get anything from the game. But I think when you have the money and actually what you have an effective attacking players on the bench, and I think it's fair to say that when Benrahma and Cornet came on, they looked effective attacking players. When you don't use them, you don't really have any excuse. And I do wonder about the pressure of it, and I do wonder about him being comfortable like this. As I mentioned before, I think his 2 record signings were £30 million each, with one was Fellaini, one was Juan Mata at Man United. So he's never been used to spending this sort of money. This is not what he's comfortable with. And I do hate the excuse. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, I hate the fact that he might use the referee and the VAR thing as an excuse, because when you've got that much money, when you've got that many good players at your disposal, I think it is really important that you do sort of adjust what you're doing. And I mean, here's the thing with it. And by the way, I hate doing disclaimers, but sometimes you have to do a disclaimer, because otherwise there's going to be someone on this video and say, right, so you want Moyes out. I don't. I actually want Moyes to succeed. But for him to succeed, he needs to get better himself. He needs to win a trophy. He's been in football a long, long time. And if he's going to do that, he needs to adjust to his new surroundings. And I want him to really, really do well. But what the club have done, and it was a point that Gio made really well, which was the club have supported him. The club have given him the tools to do the job. So the pressure, in many respects, is not on the owners anymore. It doesn't matter who you think signed the cheques, Kretinsky, Sullivan, whatever, a combination of all of them, new money coming in, doesn't matter. David Moyes has asked for certain tools to do the job. He's been given the tools to do the job. So now David Moyes cannot turn around and say, I haven't had it. So maybe in the press it's easier for him to say, it's not really my record signing. But nobody believes that. Honestly, it's like hiding behind your hands but looking through your fingers and hoping no one can see you. He's not fooling anyone by pretending that he hasn't broken the transfer record. He has broken the transfer record. It doesn't really matter how he spins it to the press to try and spin it that he can't, that he hasn't improved the squad or spent the money. I think is really, really difficult. And what it does do is it leaves the club in a situation where if Moyes does depart and Moyes can't do the job, then actually the job becomes far more attractive to whoever wants to come in. I used to laugh, right? Not laugh, I didn't laugh, but when people used to say, we could get Pochettino in, right? So Pochettino won't come to West Ham. That's what I used to say. Pochettino won't come to West Ham. And I think I'm wrong now, but I think actually I was right then. I think he would have looked at it and thought, no, it's not particularly stable. How is Pochettino going to... Pochettino's players, bless them, and we all love them, are not players like Craig Dawson, not players like Thomas Souček, and probably not players like Mikel Antonio. You know, the very bedrock, if you like, of what has underpinned what David Moyes has done at West Ham. Grafters, that's not it. And I'm not saying that Pochettino's teams don't work hard. Actually, I think they do. They covered a lot of miles. But Pochettino plays a more flamboyant brand of football. And I think even last year, Pochettino, someone like him might have looked at that West Ham squad and they might have turned around, he might have thought, you know what, I can't get that team to play in my image. Whereas I wonder now, if Moyes did go, that Pochettino might look at it and think, well, hold on a second, actually, you know what, with players like Paqueta, obviously with Declan Rice can play for any team in any system, I'm adamant of that. You know, you've got ball-playing centre-halves in Agerd and Kehrer. You've got Paqueta in there, you've got Cornet, you've got Benrahma, Lanzini's still there. He would probably look at that. And Scamacca, sorry, I keep forgetting about him. He'd probably look at that and think, I can craft that team so it can play in my image. He'd probably look at the academy, because that's what he does. He brings players through in the academy and think, actually, I could do something here. I could make Ashby sign permanently and convince him that he would be going forward, my first choice right back. So it does leave David Moyes in a very, very sticky position here. And I think because of that, it's really important that he realises the situation that he's in. And that is that he probably needs to attack teams more than he does. Because, look, Chelsea spent more than us this season, but not by much. He should be attacking them. I felt he went for it more against Tottenham than he did against Chelsea. And that's weird, right? That's weird. And I didn't know the stat. So even at Everton, even at Man U, or at West Ham, he's never beaten Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Never. In all his years at football. That would annoy me. That would irritate me. I'd do everything I could to put that right. And he thought the answer... He either doesn't know about it or he does know about it and he thought the answer to it was to sit back and defend. But I don't think that stuff bothers Moyes. I said at the start of the season, he must be desperate to get one over Potter. It would wind me right up, knowing that every time that guy outdoes me tactically. Honestly, I'd be doing everything I could to come up with something new, something different. Because obviously you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting things to change. As the old definition of madness adage goes. And I'm not saying Moyes is mad, but I do think he is lacking a little bit of insight if he doesn't change things up. I think he's duty bound to. I think he owes it to us as fans. I think he owes it to the owners who provided him with the money. But I also think he owes it to himself after a long career and a good career. He's done really well at football. And he's managed. I don't like to hang this round his neck. His comments round his neck. I don't want him to weigh too heavy on him. Which is, I'm a winning manager. Winning games is what I do. And the Red Bull model. I think we use it a little bit too much against him. That being said, they are his words, and I do think he believes one of them. I think if he could go back in time and not say the Red Bull stuff, I think he might. But I think the winning manager, I think he believes it. But this is it. This is his last chance. I do believe, and I mean his last chance at money. I'm not saying, look, if David Moyes leaves West Ham, he gets another job. Does he get another job where he's able to spend 180 million in the transfer window? I don't think so. Does he get another job where they can have a player like Declan Rice and be so comfortable enough financially that they can resist selling him? Because that's not always... the Leeds couldn't do that. Leeds couldn't resist Rafinha going. They couldn't resist Calvin Phillips doing it. That's what we've done. It ain't always the case. Southampton have done it with Ward-Prowse, but Southampton have not spent the money that we've spent. So I think this is his best chance, his best shot at it, and I'd like to see him really going for it. And maybe, just maybe, he's got to get a little bit more trust for those players, but seeing those players buzz around at the end, like Cornet and Benrahma, I found it a little bit wasteful, bearing in mind Paqueta had already gone off, and it was just a little bit frustrating to see. There you go. Anyway, listen, that's me done. Before I go, can I please just, I'll say one last time, I probably will do it again, just point you in the direction of our Patreon, which is a really great way that you can help support Hammers Chat and basically keep these videos going. I'm not doing like a begging thing and saying, look, if you don't do it, then these videos are going to end. But what we do is we try and do daily uploads, myself and Gio, on 2 different channels. And to do that, basically, we've had to make this our part-time job. For me, I had unforeseen circumstances during COVID. I basically lost my business. So this is it. This is what we do as a job now. Now, we have a separate channel, which is a Patreon channel, which has a load of other additional content. And you can pay to unlock that content. We've got 3 different tiers, basically 3 different ratcheted systems. Go and check it out if you would, please. The link's in the description below. It's patreon.com/HammersChat. We've got loads and loads of extra content on there. Loads of different series, different podcasts, different stuff myself and Gio do. Mike's on there, Charlie's on there, Jack, the analytics expert, is on there as well. We've got an awful lot of stuff going on. And also, you get between 20 and 30% discount on our online store, depending on what level of patron supporter you are. And we've got a really good store. It's hammerschatstore.com. Actually, I don't know why I said that. Don't go to that yet, because we're just revamping it. Gio's jazzing it up, hanging some baubles up on it and stuff like that at the moment. But please check out Patreon. It's a great way to support the channel. And yeah, we'd really, really appreciate it. We're very, very close to our target of being able to do this full time, all the time, basically. So anyway, I'll leave it there. And also, if you don't even do that, let me know what you think about David Moyes. Should David Moyes, bearing in mind the budget he's got, alter his style of play and, more importantly, his ambition against the top 6 teams?